This episode of This Agile Life has been brought to you by BrilliantAgile.com, providing Agile and Scrum training, consultancy, and personnel.
BrilliantAgile.com. Done right, it's brilliant.
This is episode 1 of This Agile Life, Agile Spooning. Welcome to This Agile Life, a podcast about what it's like to be agile in the real world. Joining me today are Jason Tice. Hey, Jason.
Hi, John. How are we doing tonight?
Doing great, sir. Thanks for joining us. And Amos King. Hey, Amos.
Hey.
Very
don't
good,
put that
sir.
in there. Don't put that in there.
Amos, you must have had a great day today.
I always have a great day. I love my job, and I love the people I work with, especially now that you're out at Scott.
Thanks, Amos.
Bump. Hey, guys, let's go right into the news.
All right. So,
Oh, that was quick.
well, coming up, it's interesting. Lots of changes in the space, and actually just, poking around. Actually, recently, August 7th, Rally, the makers of, our very popular Agile lifecycle management tool of the same name, they announced they were going to acquire a company called Agile Advantage. And this acquisition will allow Rally to incorporate cost and schedule and cost measures into the features of another of their existing applications, Rally Portfolio Manager. So I'm talking about this with John and Amos here, and it was interesting because I've come to the podcast tonight with a little bit different perspective and actually some different duties than Amos and John do on a day-to-day basis, in the sense that we from an architecture background, we're looking across a technology portfolio. And when you see this, this technology portfolio, there's all kinds of inherent costs and duplication and, lack of synergy in a lot of different organizations. So I'm going to propose this is a good thing for Rally, and I think it's a great potential for an additional set of financially minded metrics to be added to Agile disciplines, whereby you can actually look at the costs and actually some of the ROI that comes out of different Agile projects, and then look to find synergies and ways to optimize your IT portfolio if that's a requirement for your organization. So I think that's cool. I know that several of the stakeholders from Rally are going to be actually at Agile 2012 next week talking about this acquisition. And actually, I think I might have to listen to what they have to say to think about how that could impact, if you're trying to do Agile in a large organization or enterprise to gain efficiencies.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see the next release of the Rally Portfolio Manager and see how this is all integrated together. I understand that Agile Advantage and Rally had an existing partnership before the acquisition, so I'm sure it'll be a kind of a seamless integration for them.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what they come out with. I met some people from Rally and used to work with some of them, and so I'm pretty excited to see where they go from here.
Out of the box, Rally gives you a great set of metrics, and they give you open APIs, whereby if you want to do custom metrics, if you want to do custom reports, if you want to take all your Agile data and dump it into a Six Sigma workflow, so you can actually optimize your Agile development process using Six Sigma controls. Not that you would ever want to do that. There's an option. That's a separate topic to talk about, so we won't go there tonight, though.
That's very nice. Speaking of Six Sigma, the Agile 2012 conference is going to begin on August 13th and run through August 17th in Dallas, Texas at the Gaylord Texan Hotel and Convention Center. Also, from what I understand, is you're going to be speaking there about in the Agile integration session on Six Sigma, BPM, and CM at 1:30 on the 15th.
That is
Wednesday.
correct. So all of the topics that are so near and dear to both your and my heart, Amos, we're going to talk about and explain some of the integration patterns where it might make sense to actually take a little bit of Six Sigma and mix it up with Agile, and maybe some other environments where that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, and I'll share that we've, through Asynchrony, we've actually done some work for a couple different customers where we've explored those linkages. So it should be an interesting talk. I looked at the Agile site today, and quite a few people interested. Certainly not going to be the biggest session at the conference, but I think we'll have a fun discussion.
Yeah, I wish I could get down there just so I could heckle you, but I'll just have to heckle you when you get back. Are you going to be recording this? Is it going to be out there?
I think we'll record this. If not, we could talk about we could probably pull some of the sections because it's It's going to be actually, well, I'm going to call it 3 mini talks in a single session, because there are, Six Sigma, business process management, and when we say CM, we're talking about configuration management, all different enterprise level disciplines that have different patterns, different practices. So lots of great ideas there we can talk about in the future.
Yeah, sounds good. We need to make sure that when it comes out, whether it be video or audio, your presentation, it would be really cool to get that into future show notes.
Sure.
Yeah, guys. So if any of you listening are going to be down in the Dallas area on August 13th or the 17th, drop into the Gaylord Texan Hotel and check out Jason Tice's presentation on Wednesday. So did we want to take a look at what Agile 2012 is offering this year and see what presentations we would go see if we...
Man, why you got to spring this to me?
If we went down to the Agile 2012 conference? Jason, why don't you start?
So I did, yeah. I took a stab at it, and actually at one point John had thought of maybe 1 or 2, and the joke is I don't follow the rules, so I picked 3. So something that looked interesting to me, just kind of contextual, and I have to admit I have to give some credit to Joanna Hunt, who's doing a session on Tuesday, August 14th, talking about cracking your big rocks. Large problems don't talk back is actually the name of the session, and some project work lately, we've been using the buzz phrase big rocks a lot. So I will be completely honest and say that when I heard big rocks, it's like, what are they talking about? But really what they're talking about is this notion of, big problems don't go away. And so, this is just from the synopsis, and kind of what I'm hoping to get out of attaining this talk is, strategies and ideas for if you have a very large problem set, really complicated problem or just something that's taken a lot of time. How do you effectively kind of divide and conquer that and still enable yourself to be successful? And they in the synopsis, they actually talked about a couple of things that are pretty realistic for a few of both myself and a few other colleagues, where we, some of the soft stuff we have to do in our jobs to keep up, performance reviews, talking about maintaining metrics across teams. We all have other duties, to use Amos's favorite word, and
duty.
Keeping up on all that stuff is just hard to do. So I'm hoping I'll get some tips out of that and maybe some strategies to maintain that. So then actually later in the day on Tuesday, August 14th, there's a session by Ken Howard talking about basically little fun games to promote team interaction and team dynamics. Looks like a lot of fun. By the kind of the synopsis, we're actually going to play some games in the session, so that will be fun. I'll share as a fellow presenter at Agile 2012, a little nervous since as of now we're not planning to play any games in the Six Sigma BPM and configuration management session. So that will be a fun break from kind of the normal battle rhythm of what goes on at a conference. So that's on Tuesday. And the final one that looked promising was again, really thinking about large organizations that are looking to adopt Agile. On Thursday, August 16th, there's a session presented by Angela Druckman called The Dirty Dozen, and she's going to go through 12 practices that specifically, if you're trying to adopt Agile, 12 practices that will basically kind of make it where you're not going to be successful. So would love to get details about those practices and then kind of do an assessment for some of the work that through Asynchrony myself and John and other colleagues are supporting, and see how we're kind of use it as a scorecard to see how some of our customers are doing and how we can better support them to be successful as they look to adopt Agile. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. One of the ones that I would definitely go see is from Uncle Bob Martin. He's doing a session on, I think this is Thursday, in the after, let's see, it's in the morning, it looks like, probably 11 a.m. He's doing a session on demanding technical excellence and professionalism. And if any of you guys know about Robert Martin, he's done a long-running series on software craftsmanship, and something that I've followed pretty regularly. I don't know if he's still writing that, but years ago I was reading those pretty regularly, and I think he still publishes some of those out on his website.
So I find it kind of entertaining that he talks about professionalism in the workplace, because I heard him talking about that one time, and about he brought up that if someone from the softer side of the sexes is there, which kind of cracked me up, because that right there seemed a little bit like that we shouldn't use certain words, and like fuck. And Angela Harms, who's really big into Agile and pairing and things like that, was in the audience, and she goes, not only no, but fuck no to him about it. She's like, just be yourself. So I don't know.
Well, also, John, I'd be interested to hear, because he talks about professionalism. So, and then we talk about software craftsmanship, and I'll just share as, kind of a businessy guy, from prior work I've done, actually from a legal and business ethics perspective, there's two different gists of professionalism. There's one, all the things you can't do at work, like, hostile work environment and stuff. And is that what he's talking about? Or is he talking about the professional practice of saying, I care about my craft, I want to, produce quality work, and is that his definition of professionalism?
Both when I saw
Good
it.
question. We should all get down to Dallas and check it out.
Dang it, wish I could.
My other pick is also on Thursday. It's in the morning or 9 a.m. Demystifying Kanban, Understanding the Many Faces by Alan Shalloway. I think that'd probably be a good one to check out. Amos, what do you got?
So I didn't get to look at this very much. And especially since I wasn't going, I had a hard time when I got in here and realized there's 5 days just jam-packed with lots of good stuff. There was a lot of stuff in here that I saw that just had words in the titles that scared me away, like Six Sigma and business value model and things like that. But
Enterprise architecture, Amos?
yeah, I avoided that one right there.
CMMI?
But I just saw a couple on Monday that just at face value sounded kind of awesome to me. There's a badass double loop learning from judgmental to good judgment. Anything that has learning in the title is pretty good for me. I know most people probably think that because it said badass, I'm into it, but that wasn't really it. It was learning. And then I saw the Get Over It and Stop Obsessing Over CMMI and Get On With Being Great by a good friend of ours, Hillel. I won't even try to actually say his name right. I've met him like 100 times and I still can't. But he always seems to have some good insights, and so I would probably run down to that session just to see what he has to say. I also like the name of Users Are From Mars, Developers Are From Klingon. I don't even know what it's about, but I would show up just at face value right there.
Hey, he's got a good title name then, right?
Yeah. If you make me laugh before I ever make it into the room, I'm far more likely to enjoy your talk.
That might be our show title for today.
And so if you're ever looking for a fun item to put on your bucket list of skills to develop in your career, the notion of how to creatively name a conference presentation or briefing so that you can attract an audience is something you can definitely perfect. And I bet there's metrics and all kinds of fun acceptance criteria you could determine to measure success. So,
I saw a talk one time for a conference. I can't even tell you where it was. That just said, "You're an idiot." That was the title of the talk. And it was the most packed session out of all of them. I couldn't even get in the room, so I don't even know what it was about. But they were turning people away at the door because there were so many people in that room.
All right, let's move out of our news segment and move on into our discussion topics for the day.
Man, news was only supposed to be 5 minutes.
we had a lot of news tonight. News guy showed up.
We did some discussion on the news too, so here goes some more discussion. Let's talk about continuous integration, guys.
Do we have to?
Continuously.
No.
And while integrating. So the question is continuous integration really part of Agile? Is it an Agile best practice? That's the question for us to discuss today. Yes or no?
It just bugs me. Even in the last podcast, we talked about Agile practice, and I'm not sure that there's such thing as an Agile practice. I mean, Agile is about being able to change direction, being able to respond to your customer and work with each other in order to produce a great product. And yes, there are some practices that some of us prescribe to that help us be more Agile, but that doesn't help every team to be more Agile. So I don't really like the nomenclature of Agile practice, and I think that it gets in the way whenever we really want to get to the core of what Agile is, because everybody ends up talking about TDD, continuous integration, pairing, Scrum, all this stuff that may help you and your team be more Agile, but it's not an Agile practice. So I don't like that nomenclature.
I'll support. Amos, I completely support your thought because
Holy
Agile.
cow!
I know, so we will agree, which is for some of us who don't know the relationship is a rarity sometimes, but it's a good thing because it's really I see it more as a control mechanism and effectively a way to achieve and support many of the principles of the Agile Manifesto, but by no means is it actually required. So it's a great idea if you do it, and as the architect in the room who's talking about portfolios and trying to save costs and rallies changes. If you've never measured, like, say, the cost to do an integration cycle or a software release in terms of, the labor and then all the different risks that are exposed by not having that process automated, that's huge. So the fact that if Agile really talks about getting new functionality and new capabilities in front of a customer sooner, you should have optimized that value stream in that process for the benefit of your customer to better support Agile. But so hence, it's part of the equation, but it's not part of it's not its true practice that's mandated, at least.
Right. That's my thing is that you're not Agile because you have a continuous integration box. You're not Agile because you pair. You're not Agile because of all of these things. And I think that it gets in the way of a lot of good conversations, and even a lot of people who are starting up, trying to move from a waterfall to an Agile thing. They start seeing the word Agile practice and they think, oh, I have to do this. And then they start doing it and they get frustrated and they go right back to their old ways because, and maybe not in continuous integration. I mean, I've never really heard anybody say that continuous integration has been a waste of our time in the long run. I've heard it in the short run whenever you get frustrated because your build's failing all the time, but that's a problem with your code.
Well, to your point, learn how to do your build.
Right.
Because I have to admit, builds are kind of, especially as the build space and, all your binary management, dependency management's kind of, that's evolved. I mean, that's a whole tool set to learn, which if you haven't learned it, you got to do your homework.
Yep.
Well, here's the thing, though. So there's groups of people running around selling people services and consulting, all based on a preconditioned or a known set of Agile practices. They're selling some sort of a portfolio of Agile best practices, right? So the reason I wanted to discuss this topic is because if you take a look at Agile, you take it all back to the Agile Manifesto and the four guiding statements of the Agile Manifesto. And from the Agile Manifesto, then there's like 12 principles that go along with the Agile Manifesto that state, these are the things that we are going to do as part of doing Agile.
And what is number one?
What is number one?
Satisfy the customer.
No, it's our highest
through early
priority
and continuous delivery.
Thank you. So you got continuous, but you got continuous delivery.
But that doesn't say continuous integration. Now,
well, but I hate to say it, the market, the marketing machine has destroyed that because now it's like continuous integration, test, delivery. I mean, I find that when I do documentation tasks, for me to effectively document what that whole space is, it's like this notion of continuous integration /test /release. It's like this whole blob. So, the question that'd be fun to ask, the folks behind the manifesto is, what did they mean by continuous delivery?
Absolutely. There's also continuous attention to technical excellence, which could arguably be rolled into continuous integration.
So, and I look through here and I think like welcome changing requirements even late in development. I would say that continuous integration supports that. At least for me. I feel way more comfortable changing direction at any point in time because I have a suite of tests that I know are going to be run. Ours even deploys, so it won't deploy to production without passing these tests. I guess a human could run in and do that, but
more so, all of the just all of the bad practices of the past. Again, if you're looking for a way to assess, are you, take Agile out of it. Say, okay, we're trying to do CI. So okay, if you have a thing called a code freeze, are you really doing CI?
Right, and if you're doing code freezes, even there, like, have you heard of branching? Part of your team can still continue to work. You don't have to stop everybody from working anyway. Even if you do find yourself in a spot where you're having to stop and dig through something for a little bit. But does having a continuous integration box make you Agile? I think is the big thing to me. And that's where I get hung up on the word practice there.
In and of itself, it does not alone make you Agile. I agree with that. I also agree that it can be very helpful to a team to accomplish other principles that come along with the words that come along with the principles of Agile.
I guess I should say yes.
I got a phone for the audience. I mean, knowing that I kind of, shame on me, I led us astray with the code freeze discussion. But, for the audience out there, if and we take comments and stuff, I'd love to have feedback on, if we make a statement saying that, like, if you're doing CI right, you should never have a code freeze. Is that valid?
Yeah.
I propose it is. I think, Amos, you're going to back me up on that.
Absolutely. I'm actually, so you start talking about continuous integration, and I think that buys you the ability to do a lot more. I am a big proponent of continuous deployment, and for anything. If you, especially like now the world of the web and cell phones, you could At least for Android, you can't really do it with Apple because you have a 2-week waiting period. But with Android, you can just push out new stuff daily and it'll update. Now, a lot of people will be frustrated with their phone beeping at them every hour saying that they need to update their app. But I think that the quicker you get it out there and in front of people, the better off you are. And you'll also find out where your tests might fall down because you'll start getting bug reports.
Sure.
But I think you have to be at a very comfortable level with yourself, your team, your product, before you can get to a point where you can take that next step past continuous integration to continuous deployment, because you can't push something out there that just continues to, like, it doesn't work very well. So it continues to be horrible and horrible and horrible, and you're getting feedback from people. People will just stop using it. So you need to make sure that you have a solid product to begin with. And I think in order to make sure you have a solid product and to give your team comfort in being able to go to continuous deployment, you need the continuous integration there. And then that can take you to the point on delivering working software frequently on the Agile Manifesto. And it says weeks to a couple of months. I wish it just said daily. Well, every commit.
Yeah, but remember when it was...
Maybe not deploy every commit, but every commit should be deployable, ready to go software.
But remember when it was written. So, I mean, tooling's changed a lot. And really, the whole technology landscape's changed a lot since, what was the year?
Yeah, since they wrote this?
I mean, late night. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, Andy Hunt looks fairly young in this picture.
Yeah. I think this starts to lead us into our next topic of conversation.
Not that Andy Hunt looks old. I'm sorry if he's listening. Andy, I saw you speak at conference. You're a wonderful man. And pragmatic programmer, journeyman to master was the thing that made me become a better developer. I loved development before that, but I was spending lots of time partying and hanging out in college. And I read that book, and it made me buckle down on my studies and made me start programming all the time, and I started calling it my Bible. So I still hand that thing off to people. So thank you guys.
And sorry, so Amos, what I'm going to ask you, when you're ready to come over to the dark side and help impart those best practices through prescriptive architectural guidance.
Oh my gosh. You said a bunch of words, and I don't know what any of them are. Was it dance, magic dance?
We should try and reach out to Andy and see if we can get him on the show as a guest host, and maybe you can hug him.
Oh my gosh,
Amos. That would be cool.
Yeah, it'd be a little uncomfortable.
One of the things that we want to do is try and engage.
I don't know if I can hug him without trying to kiss him.
One of the things that we want to try and do is engage more with our audience, Jason. And you put a good olive branch out there that we can ask the audience to let us know what they think about continuous integration and whether or not if you have continuous integration, can you avoid the need for doing a code freeze? So we can put a survey out there on the website.
I would like to ask what could help people drive, what could help your team drive more towards doing continuous deployment too? Because it would be interesting to see what people suggest. And if there's anybody out there doing continuous deployment, I would love to hear other people's stories about it. I can almost get there with my customer, but that's another little issue.
Well, no, and I mean, and obviously one thing that we really didn't talk about at the onset, we all have different backgrounds and different types of projects we're supporting right now. And I'll share with some of the activities, especially within, I want to say within the defense space and some of the government work that our company supports. There are certain rigors and things that the notion of a continuous deployment process may not be feasible just because of controls and regulations and things that one day maybe will change.
Out of fear.
And that's we can have a separate discussion about, that's a policy discussion, and really you can look at what's kind of driving some of those directives that, come out of places like the DoD CIO and stuff. And they have merit. They have data to support them. But the other thing to talk about then is what is the balance? So, you've got continuous integration in the dev lab, in the dev cycle. So, you're building, you're running tests, but then, you might hit almost call it a waterfall-based, integration and release cycle. How do you make that work? I mean, knowing if that's a reality of your project or your domain, how do you optimize that to basically get the most bang for your buck? I mean, that's, I think, an exploratory space that we need to think about. And knowing that everyone, I think, as a goal can even think about having a continuous deployment or a continuous delivery cycle, but at the same time, think about how then if you have to deviate from that, you can still maintain true to what the Agile Manifesto dictates.
Whew. All right, well, go out there and visit our website, www.thisagilelife.com. We'll have a poll out there for everybody to take regarding continuous integration.
And code freezes. Ooh.
No. No code freezes.
Strategic pause. That's an
I don't
inside
even know
joke.
what frozen code looks like. Is that what a tag is in Git? Is that a code freeze?
I think so.
You know, I could tell you a funny, honest story here, actually about a project we did in this company once, where it was a function of our environment. It was where we, because of some intellectual property rules, we had to actually maintain our source code repository at our client's computing center, which was off-site from here. And they gave us this really slow VPN connection to basically go out and basically pull source code down and commit it back. And so at the time I was on the team, and when we went to do the build, we had a CI rig, but we actually had to implement a manual code freeze because we had to ensure that nobody committed a change as the build box was actually doing the build. Because it took the build box like about 25 minutes to actually pull all the source code and libraries down from the remote source server.
This must have been Java.
What? Yeah, it was Java. So, so I hate to say it. The other funny thing for the question out to the audience is, maybe some funny stories about, you had an infrastructure problem whereby you had to have a code freeze, and hate to say it, that's where a change and or reinvestment in the infrastructure, and or hate to say it, at the time that was a client server based source control system. It was Subversion. You go to Git, not quite a problem because you got the whole repo local. So again, fun stories like that. You could probably talk for hours about that.
Ooh, then we could talk about distributed version control versus crappy version control.
As in non-distributed.
Well, no, crappy. I think that's the technical term, is crappy.
Hey, Amos, is it distributed or is it federated?
Ooh. I think it depends on how you use it.
Okay, let's move on to our next topic. The lack of standard Agile approach in the industry. What do you guys think about this one? So I put this topic out there. I'll kind of go ahead and get us started a little bit. The more and more I'm talking to clients and talking to other people in the industry, people keep asking me questions about why is there no standard approach to Agile? Everybody does it differently. There's no playbook that I can just pull off the shelf and come up with a good approach to implementing Agile.
Not everything works for everyone.
So you're saying one size does not fit all.
Right. Could you imagine what it would be like to watch football if every coach had the same playbook? It'd be boring as hell. And nobody would get anything done. Nobody would be a big winner. It would just change from year to year based on who had the tallest guy or anything like that. And it's the same way here. Not every team can work the same way. Just because one team's really good at throwing the long Hail Mary pass and they do that every time, and the other team's really good at the short running game, well, they're not going to be able to do the same things. So I'm not sure that you can just throw out, here's how to do Agile. And I think that every team is often trying to find how can we do that. And every company, like here, every team works a little differently. Within the company, there have been many times where we've tried to come together and say, okay, how are we going to do this? And do it the same with every team on the company. And we find out within a short period of time, hey, it works for this team, doesn't work for this one. It slows this team down horribly, and it speeds this team up a lot. So each team needs to work differently. I'm not even sure what minimal set of standard Agile approaches we could take.
And that's what I think people are asking for out there in the industry is they're saying, help me out. Give me a template. I don't have to run it verbatim, but give me a starting point. Give me something to level me up from noob, no experience with Agile, to +1.
See, John,
give me a foundation.
I think you're asking the wrong question. And it's funny because, for the people, who know Amos and Jason and know what we've done in the past, I can even share, we had kind of a run-in with this where once upon a time we shall write a document that says, this is how you shall do Agile. And then folks like poor Amos had to come and follow that document.
Or not follow the document.
Or not follow the document, and or say the document should have been flushed down the toilet. Or that the document was wrong or whatever, or the document wasn't applicable enough. So
my approach to this was, do what I know works for me, and then when questioned about it, say, okay, let's go talk to the customer. Okay, he wrote a 30-page document that tells me exactly how I need to do my job. I gave you working software. Which way do you want me to do it? And they said, working software is great. And I moved on.
Yes. So, but what I'm saying is, I think the approach, so the playbook, and actually I'm going to use the football analogy we talked about, or that Amos brought up. It's not that people really care about what the plays are, but if you're a betting person, you care about the outcome of the game. So it goes back to your working software analogy. What I think is lacking, and I'm sure it's out there, although it's not in one of the citations I saw here that we'll talk about in a minute if we're interested, is what are the metrics? I mean, I'm going to make this a metrics statement. So we want to do Agile. How do we know we're doing Agile successfully? How do we measure it? How do we confirm it's providing value to our organization? If we know what those are, then hate to say it, to Amos's point, it's up to the people who are practicing Agile, who are the members of the teams, the developers, QA, whoever. If you have a PME, how they all fit into the mix and how they help to hit those specific metrics so that you can confirm you're being successful. So I see this as a measurement problem. And to be fair to things I've learned from the prior discussion where, yes, we did try to write a document about that says you shall do X, Y, and Z, that probably wasn't the best approach. And the best approach would say you need to achieve X, Y, and Z, and how you achieve it is really at your discretion as long as it's within certain restrictions using certain technologies.
Well, and then I have a problem with metrics in software development in general is most of the metrics seem to be kind of crappy or fudgeable, or so far out there that they're very subjective,
sure,
instead of objective, and so I can game the system in order to get things
totally,
to go
yes,
my way.
And we know you do. So
yes, I will.
Yes, you do, and all your anyone who's worked on other projects with you, we all know how that works. So, but I think the takeaway, and so maybe for the audience, I think this is a follow up because there's this notion of. Again, I'm using the term prescriptive guidance, which are the kind of the high-level objectives that a project should achieve, and effectively say that what's the appropriate level of prescriptive guidance that the community needs to provide so that different practitioners can measure and assess if they're being successful.
So you're saying prescriptive guidance, and you're defining that as a set of measurable goals? A set of measurable what? A set of measurable practices? What is the prescriptive guidance?
Well,
because prescriptive guidance to me, and I'm sorry I'm not giving you a chance to answer, but the prescriptive guidance sounds to me like a set of structured, agile practices that I can use from a playbook.
I think it could be that. I mean, no, and the other thing that I would foresee if we really want to talk about, say, agnostic of the fact that we all work for a consultancy, say you're in a technology consultancy or an agile consultancy that sells services. Something that to me is a value proposition to offer to your customer base is say, here are some means by which you can measure how effectively your agile practice is. Some tried and true metrics. You can talk about, the amount of time it takes to release a feature to your customers. So you look at release time, stuff like that.
But you can tell them to measure all kinds of stuff, but that still doesn't tell a person how do I start being agile.
Well,
all it says is here's the things that you can measure.
Multi-part.
Well, I can measure that doing waterfall too.
It's the architecture. It's a multi-part plan. I got different transition steps. So transition one is we have to offer that notion of what are we trying, how are we going to measure and confirm our success? Number two, the term, and it actually comes out of the manifesto and the way that's been developed over the years, is not necessarily step-by-step instructions like do X, Y, and Z, but maybe a collection of patterns and kind of lessons learned that have worked in other environments. And to the credit of the Agile community and the blogosphere, there's a lot of information out there. One thing I'll share is that it's all over the place, and a lot of times if you read case studies and things that are out there, like including data that's even out there from Gartner and Forrester, it's difficult to tell all the other restrictions and kind of caveats when they publish a case study that Agile transformation might have had to work through. So I think a value proposition for a consultancy is to maintain a knowledgeable staff and also have knowledge of those patterns and experiences that worked and make those available to those who are interested in such transformations. And give the customer the right to customize and I know one thing John put later is to talk about crazy habits and stuff. So for those that don't know me, I got a crazy hobby in the fitness industry, like doing like aerobics and stuff. So the joke
is why you're so full of energy.
Exactly. So the joke though from fitness, and this is, people go to fitness conferences and do this.
They have jokes and conferences in fitness.
Oh my goodness, they have conferences in fitness, Amos.
Cow.
So yes, I
just keep getting fatter.
That's
my fitness.
That should make those that
that's fitness.
Wow. Okay. No.
I am so fit.
But no. So the joke is you want to be the guy in the front row of like the exercise class that messes up, because guess what? If you mess up, then whatever you messed up doing is going to become the next big thing, or the next cool move that whoever was teaching that class is probably going to use the next time they teach it.
So throwing out your back is awesome to do in front of the fitness class.
That's the next hot move.
That's the next hot move.
I don't know about that, Amos. That might create one of those things we talked about earlier called a hostile work environment. So
I fake heart attacks, so the hot instructor gives me mouth to mouth.
Whoa.
But I guess maybe.
Sorry, Jason.
I mean, maybe to kind of. John's
I don't even know
going
you're
to give
talking
me the
about
last
anymore.
word, even though he hasn't done it yet.
I'm not. I'm actually not, because I have one more thing.
You have one more thing. I mean, but in closing, kind of, I think this notion of a cookie cutter agile approach, and of course, I'll share that, in the government space, or even in big companies, there's this desire to have a cookie cutter agile approach. I mean, that just doesn't work. And so I think that's an industry opportunity to say, how do you truly say that we have overarching criteria by which we can say, as an organization, we're successfully doing agile? But when you look under the covers, it's adapted as it needs to be, but the other thing is it's sustainable. So, if something happens, we got to move people from one project or one location to another, we still all speak a common language, and we can truly, integrate and communicate as needed to allow the organization to move forward.
And I hate to say it, because I think most consultant type people are not really the best to be doing this, but maybe hiring a consultant to start out, somebody who comes in and does agile. But the thing to me is, you can't hire the guy that says, I developed software 15 years ago. I haven't done it since then, but I'm a Scrum Master and an Agile guy. You need the guy that says, yeah, I work on a team. I develop software every single day, and I'll come spend a week with your team. And then I'll go back to developing my own software, because I'm not here to bleed you for every penny. And I really want to get back to my project because I want it to be successful. I'll just come help you guys out for a couple of days.
Well, so I'm glad you said that, Amos, because that's exactly the reason I put this topic on our schedule today. I think that Agile in the industry is getting somewhat of a black eye from people that are claiming that Agile is just this thing that people came up with so they can sell a consulting service. As a very big proponent in Agile, I want to see people use Agile and be successful with it. So I want it to be as attainable as possible for people in the industry. I want them to have a blueprint that they can start with that can get them going on Agile and using Agile in their organization. Now, are they going to become experts, and are they going to become extremely proficient with it to where they can start innovating on how to change their Agile approaches and tailor those Agile approaches? Maybe, maybe not. If they have to bring in some external help, some outside help to get them kickstarted and going, that's great, and that's fine, and that's why we're all consultants.
Maybe that would be a good thing, is find somebody who is a software developer on a team that does Agile, and see, and don't go out looking for somebody who says, I'm here to teach you Agile. Look for a developer, maybe at another company, whatever, and say, hey, can I steal you for a week this month? And you come in and work with them for a week to help get them set up, and then say, in another month or two, will you come back for a week? And we'll do this once in a while for a year. And that way, this guy, he wants to get back to his team. He's going to try to help you, but he's not out just trying to make a buck by going from company to company selling, here's how to do Agile, and I can teach you everything. This is just go to a company that does software development, that does Agile, and say, hey, can we work something out where I can have one of your guys off of a team for a week? Go find a local company that is doing Agile and is being successful, and just go up to them and ask them. A lot of the people that I know that work in the Agile industry totally would love to help somebody else out.
But can they legally do that is my question. I mean, it's saying that, if you wanted to go, if someone came and approached you and said, okay, we want you to stop working
they're
going
to have to approach another company, not another person. They go to another company and say, can I get one of your guys for a week? They wouldn't come to me. They would come to Asynchrony.
Okay.
There's a lot of legal stuff.
There's
NDAs
a lot of
and
well, the other thing I want to say about the acquisition community, or about the business, and again, I love the idea. I mean, as a purist and as someone who wants to see things, be successful, and knowing something that, in my opinion, just like you, I think that would work, and that would provide real actionable guidance and advice to the people who actually need to do the work.
Listen to podcasts and find out who are the guys doing the podcasts about Agile or about software development that you respect that are also freelancers, and go grab them. Say, hey, can I get you for a week? Because a lot of those guys will do it. Go grab Avdi Grimm. He's written 2 books. He's pretty brilliant, and he'll help you out.
Well, freelance is everything, but even coming into organizations, there's a whole lot of business law and stuff that might make that challenging. So again, that's a goal. The other thing that I was going to say is that the market's messed up in the sense that, to John's point, and what was on kind of the notes here just to prep this discussion, the market wants to buy a one-size-fits-all solution, or they want to buy. They want to buy one of those big documents that Amos and I have data to show that doesn't always work and is not necessarily the best solution. Lord knows.
Bigger companies, especially little companies, are more willing to try it out because I guess they feel like they have less to risk.
Yeah.
But I would say the bigger company that has an extra $10 billion sitting in a bank account somewhere can try it out on a small scale, right? And they can say, okay, yeah, maybe 10 billion was an awful big number.
That's okay.
$1 million. But
we had, as a complete sidebar, we had a conference here in town recently, and they had a guy from Google come out and keynote and talked about the Google Cloud and all that stuff. And he was in a panel with some other people from industry and government. And the one comment he kind of said that it always pops to the top of my mind when I hear Google these days is he said Google has lots of problems, but the one problem we don't have that everyone else have is lack of money. So they can do whatever they want. So
That's huge.
Hey, Google.
Okay, let's move on to our last topic in our discussion section for today. And that topic is, of course, about Agile. And can Agile foster continuous process/team improvement to overcome issues?
Yes.
Bad programmers.
Yes.
So
yes.
topic over
Yes.
with then, right?
I
don't know that it's that
I think
easy,
it really
though,
depends on the team that you're working with. Now, if you're doing Agile by yourself, it's probably not going to help you a whole lot. If you're like a freelancer and you're working by yourself and you're not that great, but if you're working on a team that's willing to work with you, because of the continuous feedback that you get from the Agile process and pushing out stuff in front of the customer and the customer coming back to you and saying, no, I want this, or users, if you can get users to come back to you, not just the person paying you, but the people actually using the product, if you're lucky enough to be building a product to be used and not a product to be sold, those things that can come back to you can help you further develop, make yourself a better developer, a better designer, a better everything all around. And designer developer, I think we need to start crossing those lines more often than what we do, by the way. Just a side note.
when you say designer, you mean like a UX designer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So even if you're not doing like usability, maybe you just do the pretty
architecture.
Maybe you just do the pretty pictures on the website. But they're telling you, man, every time you use these greens, they're way too bright. These two colors contrast a lot. You can learn from that, but you're only learning because you're getting quick feedback. If you work on the same thing for a year before you get it in front of everybody, and you get either a bunch of feedback or they just give you like a couple of the bigger problems. Yeah, that helps you solve the bigger problems. But all that little stuff that they would have seen because they would have been looking at the small picture instead of the big picture every time you delivered them software would allow you to fix yourself all around and not just fix these great big overlooming things, because all the other stuff they start to accept. They say, oh, yeah, you've been working on this for a year, and this little bitty thing over here gets overshadowed by this big problem over here that you had, and they never go back to that problem, so you never get better in that space.
See, I had a bunch of comments to say, but the one that I want to jump on you for saying is if you're working independently, you don't need to worry about getting better.
No, I didn't say you didn't need to worry about getting better. I said I don't know if this will help you as well to get better as if you have a team of people to help you get better also.
But see, by that, though, I would challenge you, and this comes from people who we know. We have a few of them around here. I'll admit I'm one of them, since everyone likes to joke about it. People who have the infamous, personal Kanban board. They try to, do metrics on their own life. If you're not, I would challenge you, even if you are working independently, to measure something so you have a baseline.
Yeah, I think that those things can help you. Doing Agile, doing something where you're getting something in front of customers or people and getting feedback in any way whatsoever, the more feedback that you can get and the earlier in the processes that you can get it, the more you will help yourself improve. Just that when you're working with a team, I think it helps more because you have other people that are there. The feedback cycle is a lot more whenever you're working with a team of people, because a lot of times it doesn't have to make it to a customer. It doesn't have to you don't have to recognize a problem in your pattern yourself. You have somebody else that 10 minutes into coding it, they're like, whoa, what are you doing? and they help you fix that issue right then. So that just working on a team shortens your feedback cycle, especially if you work on a team that's pairing. Your feedback cycle is even lower if you're pairing.
Well, and what you're saying by that, Nation, is kind of like to say, since I know I seeded this on the agenda, was, and I'll share that the seed came from a blog post article from actually a couple of years ago, 2010, entitled "You're a Bad Programmer, Embrace It" by Jared Richardson. We'll put the URL in the show notes, but the notion was, and you're on it, and you're kind of echoing what he said, the sense that, programming is an incredibly, complicated, detailed thing. Up front, we as technologists, be it developers, database people, even admins, people that do, architecture, admit that we're all going to make mistakes, and they just happen. The technical nature of our...
I thought architects didn't make mistakes. Only the developers that misinterpret the documents that architects create.
So for those who might hear this that are going to Agile 2012, I will show you a great example of an architecture mistake actually in my presentation next week, where we made kind of an idea for how to link some methodologies together. And yes, it worked, but it was suboptimal. But now that we made it, we can't stop it. Everyone thinks it's a good idea. So,
no.
So architects,
once you write it down, it's gospel.
Of course, it goes through configuration management. But the notion here, and just to kind of think about, and like again, Amos, you hit it spot on, is saying that kind of a call to action for, I'm going to call it the technologist community, saying that we are inherently, the technical nature of our craft is so detailed, we are going to make mistakes. There are a whole bunch of tools and things out there that actually help improve, make things easier to do, and that really we should embrace those. And I think one of the things Jared was saying in his piece that he wrote back in 2010 is that it's okay to do that, because those are there to help us. The thing that when I saw that post, another thing that I do a lot about and used to do more of than I do right now, but working with teams and helping to facilitate retrospectives, going back to what we talked about at the onset and the principles of the Agile Manifesto. If you say you're doing Agile and you can't think back to when you took time out to look back and say, hey, what's holding me back and what can I do better? That's where you really need to kind of have a little reality check, and say that, maybe we need to stop and reassess and think about what can we do to improve.
It's interesting that he mentions the use of the IDE and embracing, leveraging the IDE to help you be better, right? I mean, that was one of his points in the article. I remember a school teacher, when a kid asked, hey, can we use the calculator to do our math test? She's like, no, you can't use the calculator. You're not going to always have access to a calculator.
I wish more programmers knew how to program without an IDE, but I understand that when you're programming in Java, you need that cathedral of Eclipse to help you get through all the ceremony.
Right.
But really, I used to program Java in Vim. I program C in Vim. I program Ruby in Vim.
Yeah.
Yes, I do use IDEs sometimes, but I think there's something to be said with that knowledge that you get of not using an IDE and to have to fight through it yourself. Although, look at the Microsoft developer world. The Microsoft developer world is great because whenever you're working in their IDE, it'll bring up reams of documentation about everything that you want to do automatically at a click. But at the same time, it hinders some people because it becomes a crutch. And if ever they have to work on something and oh crap, I'm working on this computer. A friend of mine sent me a thing and said, hey, can you look at this? And I don't have my IDE wherever I am, and or I don't have the license for the IDE. It's expired. I can still look at the text file and work on it.
So here's the thing. A lot of people, when they'll interview people, when they're interviewing you for a job, maybe they'll have you come in, talk about writing some code, maybe even do some code on like a whiteboard or a notepad. They don't want to give you.
I think that's stupid.
An IDE.
That's stupid.
So my point is,
John's giving a retrospective on his job interview with Asynchrony.
My point is, you didn't make me do that. My point is that my teacher was wrong in grade school. I am always going to have access to a calculator. I've got one strapped in my pocket every day on my smartphone.
Well, to be fair, the very basic calculator that you can get for 50 cents right now costs your teacher $1,000.
No, I'm not that old. Cut me some slack. Calculators when I was a kid was still $5 or $6, and they were solar powered. So the point is, when you develop code, you're not going to be scratching it out on some stone tablets or papyrus. You've got the computer. I don't have to even if I'm using Vim still helps me with some stuff. I can put macros in there and these sort of things.
Anytime that we should talk about hiring in a future episode, but anytime I've ever done any interviewing for anybody, like if I've interviewed someone and they come in and we want to do a coding exercise, I say, here, let's sit down, use Google, use the IDE, use whatever you want, use a text editor.
Yeah.
I don't care what you use. I want to see how you work. Throwing somebody up on a whiteboard in a situation where they're usually a little bit nervous anyway, especially if they actually really want to work with your company and respect the people there. If they don't really care and they're like, you're just a jumping off point for the next job, they may not be nervous, but that's another topic anyway.
Well, you're much nicer than some of the people that I've interviewed with before.
It's just
Amazon. I interviewed with Amazon. They would not let me use any sort of an IDE, and I can't write a for loop.
I interviewed with Amazon on a speakerphone in my car on my 2-hour ride home.
I can't write a for loop.
Are you sure?
I don't know the syntax for writing a for loop. I know the autocomplete in IntelliJ to write a for loop, but I don't know how to write. I could probably scratch it together if I had to, but
you can't write a for loop in Java without an IDE.
Maybe I could. I'm lying. I actually
you could do
could.
a for loop.
I actually could.
I don't know if I could do
I just was trying to make a point and I
completely
ruined it.
I don't know if I could make a class.
What about a main? What about
so
main public static?
I think I would totally screw that up.
Yeah.
I could do it. I would just have to try to compile it 3 or 4 times. Actually, that would be the hardest thing for me to do without an IDE, is figuring out how to compile from the command line.
Good point.
Java C. And or without a build tool. I mean, I'll share as you guys were talking, I just taking some notes over here. A future topic, for an upcoming episode would be the infamous question, I think, of, has the notion and the prevalence of the IDE effectively made developers, call us lazy, call us bad, call us unskilled, and knowing that I think at least the 3 of us have obviously sat in those interviews where it's very evident from the other side of the table that they want to know exactly how much, language-specific syntax that you have in your brain. And I scratch my head because I say to myself, what does that have to do with your ability to actually successfully deliver working software to a customer?
Right. I always say use your favorite language. Most people end up, when they're talking to me, they end up using Ruby because of the position that they're going for. But I always tell them, you don't have to use Ruby. If you're more comfortable in Java, if you're more comfortable in Python, I want to see how you work.
The same. I mean,
be where you're comfortable and let me see what's going on.
Sure.
So I don't know. I got irked whenever we talked about interviews there. So it was
a bonus discussion topic.
Resumes are worthless.
Bonus discussion.
Resumes are stupid too. The dumbest thing ever. Resumes are great if you want to send your resume to a recruiter. All resumes are keyword finders. Why don't you get out there and shake some hands and talk to people?
Well, well, I know, but to be fair, that's a fun, and I'll put this as another one on the list for the future. Just kind of let the audience know what's coming up potentially. And this is, to me, it is a technology topic, but it's a very high-level technology topic. It's really at the level of the economy. Things and institutions and just things that we do, things we do in the workplace that, hate to say it, might need a facelift because of how technology and how social media and how communication has changed. Yet in some instances, we've institutionalized things that are kind of become overcome by events or overcome by technology.
Man, if more people practiced Agile, they'd be okay.
I don't think there's no correlation there. I mean, that's just
constant
that's a
change.
very
I'm not talking about
topic.
Agile development. I'm talking about being Agile in your life, being able to change.
Well, I have that one on my list too.
I keep talking to my friend he's a aerospace engineer, and he does awesome stuff like designing bearings for doors on airplanes. But I always tell him that, man, maybe you should do some pair programming or pairing on designing these things. Maybe you guys could try to figure out some way. I know that you have to send these parts off and have them machined and all that stuff, but is there something that you can do, like maybe not go machine them, but simulate them and get constant feedback and work with each other more? Because they go off into cubicles and he spends 2 to 3 months developing a ball bearing. And then he tries to fit it into a door that someone else developed completely separately from him. And then they both are like, well, I shaved my weight this much and I shaved it this much, but we really needed a total much bigger than that, where if they've been working together, it would have worked. But that goes into the bigger picture of companies or society in general. like you said, they're not changing with the times. They're not taking the feedback of the times back to their company. They still want to do it their old way, except for they don't want to pay pensions anymore.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that changed.
Change is hard. I mean, the other thing that I'll just share for the audience, that I think is definitely something we're going to do in the future is, and again, this is a marketing-driven topic or sales-driven topic. We can get some sales help on this. What is the scope that Agile should be applied to? Because Agile started software, and nowadays, I'll share that I probably, you guys might want to kill me in the parking lot tonight because we talk about using architecture to promote agility or having Agile architecture. There's Agile database administration. Agile as a buzzword has been applied to every other technology construct out there, it seems. What is the appropriate scope and or limit of where that should go? And or has the notion of what it means to be Agile truly already been distorted so much that I hate to say it, it's not even effective anymore?
Agile everything. That's what I say.
Yeah. And
that's like a whole show.
There are, Amos, to your point, in many, many fields, be it your personal life, manufacturing, industry, sales, there's lots of, you can, if you haven't ever done that, read through the, take the word software out of the principles of the Agile Manifesto and try to apply it to another domain.
I mean, right.
It's
Tyson,
very
you have
interesting.
kids. You have kids. I have kids. Do you take your kids' feedback?
Well, you heard about my kids that know about prescriptive guidance and epic fails and all kinds of crazy stuff.
So you don't take their
that.
feedback because you're still continuing to talk to them about prescriptive guidance. Do you have a parenting assurance policy?
My 3-year-old
parenting
knows
retrospectives.
to follow the prescriptive guidance or there will be consequences. That might be bad,
but that's what I'm saying is that you take feedback from your kid in some way or another, and you try to improve yourself as a parent based on that feedback. That's being Agile. That's all Agile is improving.
Reacting to the feedback right away. Hey,
right.
I got a problem. I got a dirty diaper. Oh my goodness, got to do something about it. Okay, boom, problem solved.
Your kid has to change your dirty diaper?
No.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Amos, you're truly living this Agile life.
I am having a hell of a day today.
Preconditions were not succinctly stated there. I'm going to work on my step definitions.
I've been really looking forward to being able to be on here with Tice for a while. I know that Tice and I give each other a lot of crap, but I really like working with Tice, and I think that he has some good points. He's just totally on the opposite side of the spectrum from me.
And that's what makes World Life great. So
we're just about at the end of our time here, guys. Let's go and move into our Agile picks, or our picks that are maybe related to Agile or maybe not related to Agile.
Oh, mine totally aren't.
Each of us has put together a few picks, and let's randomly start with A's Amos.
Let's randomly start with A. All right, well, I was just reading today. I do Ruby. I use Mac a lot. I used to use TextMate a lot. I still do once in a while. I mostly use Vim. But TextMate 2, I guess he got tired of everybody asking him when TextMate 2 is going to come out. So TextMate is now open source at github.com/TextMate/TextMate for anyone who wants to go out there and see that. And we will make sure that link is in the show notes. But TextMate goes open source. So, maybe it'll get some more traction now. And also...
it didn't have traction already?
Well, TextMate 2 was for a long time.
It was slow, but...
Well, it was...
The original was good and worth the money.
It was vaporware. It was vaporware for a really long time.
I can't believe they're giving it away. He's giving it away.
Is
That's
vaporware
amazing.
related to marketecture?
That's nice. Marketecture. I'm writing that down right now, actually. My other... I'm writing, so just a second. Marketecture. I'm using that. Next time I'm talking to a customer that wants to hire an architect like Tice, I'm gonna say, "Oh, you mean a marketecture?" Yeah, you just ruined it. So my other pick, which is really kind of funny because I just talked about TextMate, is Vundle, like bundle only with a V, and that is a tool for managing plugins for Vim. Which, if anybody uses Ruby, it's like Bundler for plugins on TextMate. You go and you put some bundle commands into your Vim script, and when you start up Vim, you just type in bundle install and hit enter, and it will go out and pull down all of those plugins for Vim, and you're on your way.
And that effectively turns Vim into an IDE if it wasn't already, and that makes us all dumb and lazy.
An IDE with awesome key shortcuts. You can't be dumb and lazy with Vim. Can
If
you remember all those key shortcuts?
I can't get a job at Amazon because I have to use an IDE.
The only thing that's a lot harder for you to it's.
I bet I can get.
So I'm
going to get a job at
for
NASA where I have to go on the whiteboard and do a proof of my code, and what that teaches me to do is why I need to do architecture so I can visualize.
I don't use any autocomplete plugins. They're plugins for moving stuff around and highlighting. I really like highlighting. It helps me out a lot. That's what I use. Now, there are some plugins. I write Ruby. It's a dynamic language. You can't autocomplete Ruby for crap. There are lots of IDEs that have tried it.
There are lots
all
that
they
try,
do is
and they
soak
all
up
suck.
a ton of memory and just choke the life out of my computer out of me. So, yeah, go out there, try Bundler. Bundler's awesome. Or Vundle. I'm sorry, not Bundler. It is also on GitHub. And has been really useful. And when you're using Vundle, make sure you pull down like every plugin that Tim Pope has ever written for Vim because he's a Vim pimp.
Good picks, Amos. I'll go next. This is John. My picks. I picked my first pick.
J does come after A, long before T.
Yes.
So is this
his first name is not Tice.
Is this in order of who's the most interesting?
Not in the order of no. It's in the order of who actually followed the prescriptive guidance, which said to pick 2, and I will admit I picked 3.
So he's penalized and sent to the end of the queue. My first pick is Lean Kit Kanban. Check out leankitkanban.com. It's an online Kanban board. It's really beautiful, and they just did a redesign of the site, and they've made it even more beautiful. So I want to give them full props. Check out Lean Kit Kanban.
At first glance, when I saw Lean Kit Kanban in the show notes, I thought it was a Russian word.
Could be. Or Greek.
Or Greek.
My second pick is a video that had me in stitches but was just very uncomfortable to watch. So you guys should check this one out. It's from Atlassian, and it's about it's a parody video on pair programming, and it's something they call spooning.
John, what is Atlassian?
Atlassian, they do
this
like...
This video's been around for a while.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, yeah.
Atlassian's a company. They have a number of Confluence, Jira.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know who it is.
They have a wiki. I forget what... I don't know if that's Confluence or not, but...
Yeah, we spoon program on our team all the time.
Don't say that.
That doesn't create a hostile work environment.
I'm just going to call him out. Eric Newneighbor always wants to
spooning.
program.
Really?
I knew he was a spooning programmer. I just knew it.
We better beep his name out of this before we get in trouble, okay, Lee?
No, I think we should have him be a guest. He can come in for a guest flogging.
But he'll want to spoon
himself.
and use the same microphone. It's a little uncomfortable.
Well, he could come over by me. I'm okay with that.
Okay,
We'll make him go into the architecture space. He'll follow the prescriptive guidance.
You might need some prescriptions after he gets done
So
spooning.
in the spirit of not following the prescriptive guidance. So, of course, the prescriptive guidance said to pick 2 things. I picked 3, and I'm actually going to grow it to 4. So, oh, my goodness, I know.
This isn't fair. John, I should get to go again. He's picking more than me. This is not fair, John.
I'm going to
have to separate you
I'm going to enjoy some scope creep.
I'm glad he sits on the opposite side of the room.
Lately I've been doing some database work, and actually was kind of a little late to the party.
That's right. Architects sometimes do actually touch software.
I was a little late to the party, and and bumped into the utility Liquibase to basically do language agnostic database management. So as a Rails guy, love the migration pattern, how you can go up, down, restore your database to any point, move it across multiple target environments, with your build process. Really cool stuff, but was, I hate to say, a little in the dark in terms of the utilities that were out there to do that, agnostic of a language. So really helpful for, if you've got schemas that get out of sync across different environments, great way to get them back in sync, generate tests against your database schema. Lots of cool stuff there. And I'll share my scope creep on this. My second pick is to really talk about the idea of social hacking, saying that, if you're like me and you're unfortunately working on some work that might not have you in the code every day, we all know we live in a technology-driven world these days, and there are lots of great venues out there, and there are lots of people and organizations and nonprofits that need help. So if you're looking for something to do, you'd be amazed that your local community organization, church, neighborhood association, volunteer group might need some help. Something that I'll share I've done, Amos, is I've set some stuff up, handed it over to some other folks. They kind of messed it up, and hate to say that one of them screwed up a database schema and ended up using Liquibase to figure out what the problem was, and restore the schema to a working space to fix our content management system. So if needless to say, if you're on a track where maybe you're not touching software every day, but you have that inner desire, think about the social hacking space.
I have lots of inner desires.
I'm
sorry,
hack.
you're killing me.
So, number 3, thinking small, kind of in the spirit of all of our discussions about the Agile Manifesto tonight, saying that yes, smaller is better than bigger, and knowing that even if you're in a really, really, really
Does your
big...
wife tell you that?
Knowing if you're really in a really, really, really big environment, there's a huge value to making things smaller to manage risk. And last but not least, something completely unrelated to technology, so if you've never thought about it, and if you're someone who wishes there were truly more hours in the day to get stuff done, get a yard service. If you have grass. If you don't have grass, I don't know. And if you live on a farm, Amos, I don't know what you do either. But if you've
live in the middle of nowhere.
If you've never done the cost comparison, getting your grass cut is the absolute cheapest thing you can personally outsource that will give you significant amount of time back into your life. So
sometimes it's nice to be on the riding lawnmower with a beer, though.
It's a good
and
life.
that is
it's a
an
good life hack.
illegal activity in this state, Missouri, and probably many other states where people might.
Even if you live on 9 acres in the middle of nowhere.
Well, there's a private property clause. If you don't drive on a public road, you're probably clear. But
Yeah, there's no public road that even touches my house.
I agree with you, Jason. With the yard service, that's a good life hack.
Never
That
thought
is.
about that. That is, most people probably.
This isn't fair. He got to pick 4, so I'm going to pick another one.
Go ahead.
So the Google Doodles that pop up on Google every day.
For the Olympics? Do we love the Olympics?
Yeah, those are cool. So I saw,
Wanna talk about
I
Michael
remember
Phelps?
the Pac-Man one, and then the Olympic ones that you can play right now. And I thought, man, I wonder how many of these that there are actually playable. So I went to Google and I searched for playable Google Doodles. And they have one that they put out there on Alan Turing's 100th birthday that is a Turing machine, and it's a puzzle. And you gotta solve it. And there's 6 of them. And then it goes through and does the binary for 100, starting at 1. So that takes a long time. And then it's got 6 more puzzles, which most people don't know about because I searched all over the web to see while I was waiting what they were going to look like. And nobody seems to know about the second 6. So there's actually 12 puzzles, and they get increasingly difficult, and they're just a lot of fun. So you should go out and look for that.
Today's Google Doodle is the kayaking one, and I'm playing it right now.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's really wickedly addicting.
The basketball one I was a little sad with the other day.
Do they have a synchronized swimming one?
Kind of awesome.
The hurdles was pretty good. And a lot of people are defeating these with like Python, which is,
that's cheating.
is interesting to go out there
Cheating
and see some of the Python code.
I
people
don't
are
mind
writing.
if you're going to defeat it as long as you do it in MIPS. That's fine. That's not cheating.
Mip, mip.
Or 8051 or straight binary. Go for it.
Well, guys, that's it for today. Go out and check out our website at thisagilelife.com to find the show notes and links for subscribing to the podcast. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for joining me today. Jason Tice, why don't you tell everyone where they can find out more about you?
Easiest place, jasontice.com.
Nice, you own the domain.
Wow, how'd
Good
you
job.
get away with that? I can't do it because AmosKing.com is owned by a person. Well, I guess it's not owned by him. There was a guy that was on death row in Florida named Amos King. And so
you, though.
Not me.
You sure?
Not me. Yeah, he's actually, so I'm Amos Lee King.
Go try
and
it.
he was Amos Lee King Jr., but he's like way older than me, and I'm white and he's not, so it really didn't work out real well.
See, I'm going to sign the production team up for more work here. We should do a survey of the audience. And you don't have to have done, but you have to have been involved with it. What is the most expensive domain name transaction you've ever been involved with?
We'll put that in the show notes. See who wants to let us know.
For the audience.
Yeah, for anyone.
Okay.
Knowing that you either had to sell or buy a domain name for a large amount of money.
I wish I had owned like MSN.com or something.
I know you got a few folks around
iPad.com.
you either own a few things and have sold them or been approached to sell them, and some of the pricing is interesting. I did a business opportunity once where we had to purchase a domain name from someone who held it, and the cost, and it gets back to the what's in a name question.
So we'll talk about contacting me then, because that kind of leads right into that is my blog, which is really horrible. I went to transfer it and lost all of my CSS and everything and half of my blog posts.
I think you need a strategy for enterprise backup.
I removed some of it on purpose, but I'm still in the process of getting it looking how I want, and right now it looks really crappy, but it's dirtyinformation.com. And I was actually approached by a porn company at one point in time to see if they could buy that, but they didn't want to offer enough money. They offered like $1,000 for it. And at the time, I was feeling all cocky and thought I could get some more. And I said, how about 5? And they just walked away.
So dirtyinformation.com.
Dirtyinformation.com is my blog. I haven't put anything up there in a while. The last article I put up was about how to build a good software team and what types of personalities go onto a good software team. And then I can be found on Twitter at Adkron, ADKRON. And pretty much if you search for Adkron and find anything programming related, GitHub, it's me.
Great. And I'm John Sextro, and you can find me online at johnsextro.com. And my Twitter handle is at JCSEXTRO. We all work for Asynchrony, so if you'd like to find out more about Asynchrony, you can find them online at asynchrony.com.
And they are not paying us for this podcast, and the opinions expressed herein are those of the members of this podcast and not those of Asynchrony or the wholly owned subsidiary of Schaefer Corporation.
Very good, Amos. You could be a lawyer.
But hey, Asynchrony has a blog too. I know, actually, John, I think we've all contributed to it. So you sometimes
I have not.
You have not. Okay.
I forced my team members to contribute.
John
to
and
it,
Jason
though.
have, and Amos has delegated that.
I have totally
as a great
delegated
leader.
that.
The blog is blog.asolutions.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to check us out online at www.thisagilelife.com.